Greetings, my name is Kathy Lynne Kanika Marshall. I'm delighted to be here to give you some hints on how you can leave a written legacy of family history. Note that we will have a short hands-on exercise to help you get started on your book. So please have a pencil or pen and paper or smartphone notes app ready to go. Feel free to leave questions in the chat and we'll talk about them after the presentation. Also, please mute yourselves so everybody can hear the talk. Ready? Let's go. My intention today is to help you understand that you can find information about your kin, especially in this age of digitalization. Online access to genealogy documents makes it so much easier to find information, to write rich stories about our ancestors. This will mostly be a basic course, with a few intermediate concepts thrown in for good measure. To help you get started on your family stories, I'm going to invite you to try my focus exercise to help you figure out which book to write first. I'm going to share with you the best secret in town, especially for adoptees who never knew their parents and descendants of enslaved people whose families were often sold away from each other. Today, during this hour, you will learn how to find thousands of family members in less than 44 days for less than $100. Perhaps half that price if you start today. Does that sound like a good use of your time? No, I'm not a snake oil salesperson. This is for real, so stick around. First, I'd like to share a little bit about my personal genealogy journey. Born Kathy Lynne Marshall in Cleveland, Ohio, I was a researcher, analyst, technical writer, and personnel consultant for the 11,000 member California Highway Patrol for 36 years. For 10 of those years, I taught 600 analysts how to complete their work assignments using the research methodology system I honed from my master's program. Like everybody else, I read Alex Haley's emotional book called Roots: An American Family. In 1976, I sat stupefied watching every minute of the Roots miniseries that flooded our TV screens. I too wanted to have my Kunta Kinte moment, finding where my African ancestors lived. And even though I started collecting family history documents in 1976, it was a kick in the pants from my departed ancestors who helped me become a genealogist in 2016 at the age of 60. I modified the writing process I taught at the California Highway Patrol to writing lineage books. I've since published 9 books for different family lines, including the communities in which my family lived in Ohio, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, North Carolina, Virginia, and California. At the end, when we have question and answers, if you have any of these people and maybe family names, we can swap information. Thankfully, with access to so many documents from the comfort of our home computers these days, it's much easier to become successful at finding our African ancestors, or whatever other racial group that you are descended from. So more of us are writing our stories these days instead of letting others write or not write our stories for us. Hello! My speculative nonfiction storybooks, also called creative nonfiction, are based on the genealogical proof standard, facts, but my stories are mostly told from the point of view of my ancestors. No, I wasn't there in 1874 to witness the birth of my great-grandfather, Otho Sherman Williams, but I studied enough about that time and place that I wrote his birth as though we were all there watching and listening to the event. I am honored that my books have won 7 international, national, and local book awards, and I want to encourage everyone, no matter your ethnic background, to start writing your family stories now. And I'm going to do my best to help you get started today. Okay, my mother, Mary Marshall, was born in Mount Vernon, Ohio in 1934. My father, Dr. Thomas Marshall, was born in 1937 in Cleveland, my birthplace too. But Dad moved us to Washington State, then California, away from all of our family. So we didn't go to the birthday parties. We didn't hear the stories that everybody else hears. We didn't even go to reunions until 1983. So in 1976, I wrote stories to my grandmother, or actually letters to my grandmothers, wondering why we have so little melanin in our skin. People kept asking, "Is your daddy white?" "No, I'm black. Can't you tell?" Anyway, I visited Ohio several times, interviewed my elders, and haphazardly collected documents for 40 years. But I threw them in a box, disorganized, or some documents I put in the computer. I failed to properly organize or analyze those documents for 40 years. I failed to write my family history. But when I turned 60, or at least I was living the 60th year of my life, I got scared. You know, one of those decade birthdays where you really have to think, "Ooh, another 10 years. And I worried that the documents I had collected would be thrown away by my sons if something happened to me tomorrow. They're nice men, they're lovely children, but they don't care about family history. You know what I'm talking about? So on October 1st, 2016, my ancestors became my boss. They demanded that I write at least one book about their lives per year, no excuses. And just like I couldn't make any excuses to my CHP boss, I don't know anything about this topic. You're going to have to assign it to somebody else. No. No. I had to get it done. We had 3-day turnaround time frames where I had to research it, write it, send it through 3 levels of editing, and it'd be out the door by close of business 3 days later. So I had to learn how to do that. So I developed a process on how to do that. And it wasn't until October 1st, 2016, that my ancestors became my boss, that I figured out how to do it. How to write that one book a year that they mandated for me. So the process we're going to chat about today helped me meet their mandate to self-publish one family lineage book per year, and I've done that since 2016. So I'm hoping that my story will invigorate you to do the same for your family. Don't wait 40 years like I did, though. You got digitalization now. You have a lot of online sources that we're going to talk about, so you can be successful now. What is genealogy anyway? So we're going to start with a few basics. Genealogy is the study of families, family history, and the tracing of their lineages. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate kinship and pedigrees of its members. So think about the daughters of the American Revolution who are very stringent about the correct way to do genealogy. Unfortunately, many of their requirements are difficult for the descendants of former slaves who were viewed as property prior to 1865. It's doable, but it's really hard. A genealogist conducts thorough research to trace and document family lineages using a variety of historical records, archives, and databases. They investigate birth and death records, census data, immigration records, wills, military records, and other relevant documents to piece together family trees. They document and organize information, verify data accuracy, and interpret its historical context. A genealogist often collaborates with clients, uses DNA testing, provides written reports, follows ethical practices, and stays updated on research methods. Well, Kathy, how is a genealogist different from a family historian? I don't know which one I am. A family historian researches and preserves a family's history and genealogy, going beyond basic lineage tracking to explore the stories, context, and cultural background of their ancestors. They might digitize photos, research historical records, and curate family narratives. Essentially, they're more storytellers and archivists of the family heritage. Who cares about the title? Let's just get started today, okay? Okay, freedom at your fingertips, exploring Black Texas history in the digital age. It's such an intriguing title for this event. I love, love, love it. We are so lucky today to have computers, smartphones, AI, artificial intelligence, and many genealogy documents that are already online. Those of us interested in family history are lucky to live in the digital age. All you have to do is turn on your computer, enter some search words, and let Google or AI find the answer to your question. Well, it's not that simple, but it's pretty darn close. Back in the day, you had to travel to the home of your ancestors to find records of their existence. And for African Americans and adoptees, the task was nearly impossible to find birth and death certificates or other usual genealogy documents. Did you know that about 90% of all African Americans in America had been enslaved at some point in their lives by 1860? The enslaved were legally regarded as property, not human beings, so it is nearly as tough to find information about our ancestors as it is for adoptees to find their families when they were given away at birth. And genealogy trips are expensive if you have to travel to the local courthouses where your families lived to scour records on site. For me, a 7 to 10 day genealogy trip costs about $3,000 for airfare, car rental, hotel, and food. It's worth it to me to visit those places to get an idea of the sounds, smells, and sights that my ancestors may have experienced and touch the original documents containing their names. But many individuals cannot afford the luxury of traipsing around the world finding documents. My Finding Marshall's A Genealogy Trip with a Black and White Twist book won a New Generation Indie Book Award, and that experience brought me here to you today, thankfully. In 2021, I drove through Georgia with Amy, the sixth great-granddaughter of my Marshall's enslaver, and me as the ancestor, the descendant of those enslavers. That book uncovers the taboo conversations we had about race and place and includes helpful tips to prepare you for your genealogy trip, so it might be a helpful book for you. Believe me, visiting the land of your ancestors is worth every penny. Even so, online availability of many genealogy documents is so handy thanks to the thousands of volunteers around the world who have spent decades photocopying and now transcribing all sorts of helpful records. Freedmen's Bureau records are an example of some of the most valuable documents for African Americans researching their family lives during and after the Civil War. Millions of records are now at your fingertips, and I'll show you some examples soon. But anyway, I just want to share just a very short video, just a couple minutes, of a little bit of my and Amy's visit to Talbot, Georgia in 2021, right at the end of COVID, when they allowed us to start flying again in 2021. And it was a blast. She and I, we didn't even know each other. We were just DNA. We found each other through DNA. She lives in Utah. She's Latter-day Saints. I live in California. I'm black or mixed, whatever. And we spent, we shared a hotel. We spent every day in the car looking at all the places where our ancestors lived. And chapter 10, I believe it is that's the most interesting, though. It's all the taboo topics that white and black folks aren't supposed to talk about. We talked about them, and I wrote about them too. So if you have it, I'm sure almost all African Americans in America have some measure of European DNA, if you look at that sort of thing. But it's a really important book, and I hope that you'll check it out. It may help you deal with some issues that you come up with in your research. work in progress. This is a work in progress. A renovation of a home. This is my partner in crime. He said, we're gonna go see this place. And ask for forgiveness later. State representative. Yeah, you need. This is very close. This is very close to the house. So I just love that. That was just a fantastic trip. And it gives you an idea of what you can do too. You can put together videos of the places where you visit, especially, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about interviewing your elders, but take a lot of pictures and put them into videos. They're, just iMovie. I have an Apple computer, and you can do it the same thing with a PC, I'm sure, and just put them together, put them on YouTube, share that information with your family, with your friends, put them online if you like, and just celebrate your ancestors. It's a great way to do that. Now, it's also important to understand that writing a paperback book is not the only way to write about your family history. Look at the many ways you can deliver, on this slide right here, the many ways that you can deliver your valuable research to your family, friends, and the world. Yes, a paperback and ebook are the most common methods, but you can also write a blog on your website or on social media. That's what I did at the very beginning. I wrote Melvin Collier's book, dealing with his research in Mississippi. Create YouTube videos like the one I just showed you. You can create Facebook pages like my Finding Otho, or you can contribute research to Our Black Ancestry and other specific county genealogy pages that are available online, Facebook, Instagram especially. Having a periodic Zoom meeting with family is a great way for multiple family members to present what they know about your family history. And you can make a documentary. This is my personal bucket list. I would love to make a documentary with reenactors like Rick Murphy's Arrival of the First Africans in English America. It's phenomenal. Won a bunch of awards. It's just fabulous. Or Regina Mason's Gina's Journey, The Search for William Grimes. Love that one. Have you thought about making your own movie or documentary? What about submitting a short story to the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society, OGS? They have a quarterly journal. Or there's history magazines. There are other genealogy organizations that you can also submit information to. Get your family stories out there. It doesn't have to be a 300-page paperback book. Listen to radio shows and podcasts like Bernice Alexander Bennett's Ancestors' Footprints, or Brian Sheffy and Danya Williams' Genealogy Adventures podcast. You can also, my favorite, is you can make a 20-page color biography using photo books from walmart.photo.com or shutterfly.com. These are beautiful books, and if you get on their mailing list, you can often get the books for half off or 60%, something like that. I usually print out 25 around holiday times, and I give them out as holiday gifts to my family and friends. So that's a really neat way to be able to pass your family history out to folks. And again, the quality is wonderful. Encourage family to send you their memories, their stories, so that you can publish them in a book. You can write a newsletter that contains those family events and snippets from your family members. There are so many ways that you can inform people of your discoveries and write your family stories, but the big deal is, let's write our own stories instead of letting others write our narrative for us. Can I get an amen? Here. So, the first step. Build a family tree, starting with yourself. So in this particular tree, I am at the very bottom of the trunk. That's me, Kathy Marshall, and all the ones in red over here. This is my current book project that I'm trying to finish this year. Hello. But on the left side, these are my mom's people, and on the right side of the tree are my dad's people. So filling out a tree like this tells you where you have the gaps, where you have the blank areas. Okay, and so it gets you started. Now, ideally, what you're going to do next is you're going to collect at least 3 documents that prove who your parents were. This is super important. This is lineage work. This is what Daughters of the American Revolution, Sons of the American Revolution are going to want to see. You've got to prove who your mother was and who your father was and who your grandparents were. You've got to prove all the way back to someone who fought in the Revolutionary War. So what if you don't care about that? You should care about at least the lineage aspect, that you need to find facts, documents, and get them as soon as you can while they're still available to us. I'm not getting into any kind of details on that, but y'all probably know what I'm talking about. So the next thing you could consider doing is, oh, by the way, let's see, yeah, you could consider interviewing your elders with a memoir journal and videotape them at their house. What? You don't know what a memoir journal is? Okay. Here are several examples of the types of records that are helpful to collect. Court records, land deeds, birth, manumission, marriage, school records, death, family lore, ship manifests, slave sales, social security cards, passport, family papers, wills. Did I already say that? No. Medical, citizenship, inventories, cemetery records, Freedmen's Bureau, which are fantastic records, any biographies that have already been written about your person, the family name, you can check the history of that, residence, military baptisms, census records, newspapers, family trees of other people, church records, obituaries, maps, that sort of thing. Those are proof documents, and get as many as you can for each generation and organize them into binders or on your computer so that you can find them for each family member within each family line. Now we're going to be talking about what you can do if you don't have adequate lineage information. Freedmen's Bureau records are my new favorite data set, so I need to share it with you. Established in 1865 to assist formerly enslaved people and impoverished whites in the South after the Civil War, these records were hidden for decades, but have recently been made available online. Used to be that we had to read each of the handwritten records one by one, but they're now indexed, and many of the records have been transcribed by volunteers. They contain a wealth of information about individuals' lives during the Reconstruction era, including names, family relationships, employment, education, and so much more. Hospital records, that's how I was able to find my great-great-grandmother and her daughter, my great-grandmother. And I was able to prove that through Freedmen's Bureau records, hospital records mainly, and transportation records. So it's some great stuff, and it's particularly useful for African American families, and they offer insights into the social and economic conditions of the time. So you can access these records from several sources. I prefer the Smithsonian portal, and I've got the URL up here. And let's see, and access from FamilySearch.org. That's through their collection 2721171 as shown up here. And you can also access them from Ancestry, but you've got to have an Ancestry. Well, no, I think they're free. I don't think you need to have an Ancestry account. I think most of the Black records are available for free through Ancestry nowadays. Yay! So get to it. Get those proof records. It'll really help you, and they're so revealing about the lives of our ancestors. The next big step is to interview your elders as soon as possible, and be sure to videotape them for posterity. Understand that many of our elders endured significant hardships and may not want to relive them. So you need to ease into this task. Don't ask the tough questions up front like, who's your daddy? Or why don't you look like any of your sisters? Or who's the enslaver and did he do the deed to plant the seed in our family? No, don't do that up front. Consider calling your elder first, saying something like, hey, Grandma, may I stop by and chat with you a little bit? I tried a new recipe for chocolate chip cookies and I'd love your opinion. And we can catch up on girl stuff. Is that okay? So something like that. Bring their favorite beverage and something they like to eat and start off slowly. Walk around their favorite room and ask questions about the photos on the wall. Ask their permission to take pictures and photograph the heck out of photos and documents and what the rooms look like and what she sounds like. Ask some benign questions at first, like from a memoir journal that you can buy in bookstores or on the Devil Amazon. Examples, and I say that affectionately because we really use Amazon a lot. Anyway, examples might be: describe your childhood bedroom. Grandma, did your family eat something special on Sundays? Get them to talking about just regular day stuff. What church did you go to? What were your favorite songs? Who were your best friends in school? And I forget, what's the last year of school that you attended? So already know in advance what information you don't have that you'd want to have, and ease into asking those questions. Refill your elder's beverage. Grab another cookie. Then dig a little deeper. Keep the conversation lively so it doesn't sound clinical, like it's a job interview. No, just keep it conversational and let them talk. Record what they say. So important, so important. It doesn't have to be difficult, but that's what a memoir journal can do. It's got, this is a copy, this is an example of one that was in my mother's book. And it was just a question, what did you do special on Thanksgiving? This was my mom's answer. She typed it out. One Thanksgiving season, Grammy Carter had a live turkey for several months. We got to know this bird. Then it was time to kill the bird for Thanksgiving. Its neck was wrung and he was prepared to eat. Well, I remember I could not eat that turkey. I was not from a farm, and this was very sad for me to see. So that's just a brilliant story. It paints such a picture of life from different angles. And that's what we want to do, is get warm, wonderful tales like that. Remember early on when I bragged that you would learn the best secret in town, finding thousands of relatives in less than 44 days for less than $100, guaranteed if you start today? Well, this is what I meant. Buy DNA test kits by July 4th, especially for your elders, and I bet you'll get reduced rates. Once they have received your saliva sample from the test kit, it usually takes 3 to 4 weeks for the results. Were you adopted? Are you stuck with your research? Take a DNA test to learn who your blood family is. Now, I must warn you, DNA don't lie. Do you hear me? DNA does not lie. It will find your blood family, but you may find secrets that did not want to be told. You may find that your parent isn't who you thought he or she was. You might find all kinds of things that can be disturbing. I need for you to know this. And when you give a DNA test to somebody else, you must do due diligence and let them know that, hey, you know what? We might find surprises. We just never know what our elders had to do. We never know what our ancestors were forced to do back in the day. So, it did happen. It's facts. Hopefully people will understand, but tell them in advance. And if they're not willing to find out the possible secrets, ask them if they would still give you your the saliva sample so you can do research for the rest of the family, and you promise not to tell anyone. But really, yeah, it's you could have secrets. You will likely find some secrets. Anyway, most people take a DNA test. I would say 80 to 90% of people take a DNA test to find out where in Africa my ancestors came from, what percentage of my DNA is from Ghana and from Nigeria, and they only care about that. They have no idea that that is not the gold of a DNA test. The gold of a DNA test is that they're going to give you a list of literally thousands of people who match your DNA. What that means is that you share a common ancestor somewhere back in history. The question is, well, which ancestor? Well, sometimes they can guess it pretty well, and I'll show you just a couple of examples really quickly. This is more on that getting into the intermediate side. But it's just fabulous information, though. So let's look at some examples really quickly here. So this is the main thing. Where in Africa did I come from? This is the reason that most people get their test. So 50% of my ancestry comes from various African countries, 42% from Europe, and 2% from southern India. And I believe that's my maternal line, my matrilineal line, because I actually come from Madagascar. My mother's line, mothers, all the way back, comes from Madagascar, Africa. And many of the folks, I guess, from India and Southeast Asia mingled with the Africans in that particular island. So anyway, but this will give you, this is what most people are interested in. What percent comes from England? Da, 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 da. It's not the gold. It's not the gold. Let me show you the gold. So there are many DNA testing companies, okay? Ancestry.com is the biggest. You can take an autosomal test, which tells you basically that your, not your traits, but what you get from each parent. It's called an autosomal test. Normally it's $99, but usually you can get it for half off during holidays. MyHeritage.com is an excellent site, but it is a European site. I didn't find many African Americans or Africans on the site. They're trying to catch up, but anyway, autosomal test is $33 on sale and $89 regular price. Family Tree DNA does paternity tests and maternity tests or matrilineal tests, so and autosomal. So you can see and compare the prices there. Living DNA, I forget which country that's from, but they have an autosomal test and you can look at their offerings. That's a smaller company. It's rather new. AfricanAncestry.com, and there's, I wish we could put stock in it, but really it's just the maternal test. Matriclan is for the maternal test, Patriclan, and they supposedly tell you which tribes you came from. Unfortunately, most genealogy experts don't put much stock in that product, but you're certainly welcome to pay the big price if you want to. Okay. Here are the basic results that Ancestry.com provides, but there are many more delectable DNA tools that you may use to fine-tune your search for common ancestors. Most people are only interested in the ancestral regions on the far left, but Ancestry does a nice job of giving you information about your ancestors' ancestral journey from the slave ship to where they were migrated to. For me, Ancestry provides a glimpse into my people who ended up in early southern USA and inland Mississippi. So if you click on that second column, I'll get much more information about those groups and my family members and where they ended up. Ancestry also provides information on the traits you received from your maternal and paternal lines. That's of no interest to me, but you might enjoy that information. That's in the last column, the fourth column, that's called traits. Playing music by ear. You're unlikely to play music by, so it's that type of a thing. And if it floats your boat, great. For me, I don't need it. The gold of a DNA test is number 3. It's the one that's got the green circle around it and the big gold. The gold of the DNA test is the list of 26,498 blood relatives who share a common ancestor with me. Your results would be different. Maybe in general, Caucasians seem to get more matches. So you might get 30,000, 40,000 matches. So they're going to actually list the names of these people and the profiles, see in blue here. And you can contact them and you can try to figure out, well, can I look at your tree and see if we can find out how we match, who our common ancestors are. So if you were adopted, you will definitely find family members who have also taken a DNA test. We descendants from enslaved kin will find black and white relatives, and maybe Native Americans and Asians too. It's difficult to prove anything based solely on DNA, unless it comes back saying, hey, this is your daddy and this is your mama. That's pretty good. But a lot of times the connections are way, way, way back in the 1800s, 1700s. So it's the DNA is not strong enough to prove a relationship. So you've got to check your matches trees and find documents that prove the lineage. But DNA gives us the hint on where to look. It points us to the right tree to be barking up. That's why I love DNA. That's why I really recommend that you get your family DNA tested. They can't clone you yet from that little saliva sample, but especially get your elders tested because they are closer to the enslavement era, meaning you have a chance of, like, I got 26,000 matches. Your elder may have many more matches that will take you way back, way back. And that's where we need to be to find information on our enslaved ancestors. So that's why I really, really encourage you to look further than just where in Nigeria did my family come from. And it's not even that. It's just what percentage of my DNA came from Nigeria. It doesn't even tell you the tribes or anything. So yeah, the gold is right here where it says matches, and it's going to give you a list of all of the folks who match you in order. So the ones that match you to the closest or the greatest degree, like if you have a father that took a test or cousins or siblings that took the test, they're going to show up first on your list. Now, for again, adopted folks, that's what you want to see. For us, Africans, African Americans, that's what we want to see. So we can contact those people, and maybe they've already done the research, and maybe they will share their documents with us so that we can build our tree properly, so that we can build out the lineage. That's what it's all about. That's why it's great. Please don't make the mistake I made for decades. Organize your documents by family line, either in binders or folders on your computer. Have separate sections for each person within the family, then sort their records by date, either the earliest dates first or the most recent dates first, whichever you prefer. For computer records, I capitalize the file name this way: surname, underline, first name, underline, year of the document, underline, the document title. But you can do it however you like, just to tell them apart. It makes them easier. It makes it easier to sort all of those documents so you can find them by person if you do it the way I've shown you. But I can't write. Is this your concern? Well, it's understandable, but you can get help from your grandkids or neighbor kids that know all about typing on computers if you ever have difficulty figuring out how to make the computer work. Now, as far as spelling and grammar, you can use the built-in word checker or spell checker in Microsoft Word, or there are other programs like Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid that will help check your work and give you options that you might want to consider. Nowadays, AI is everywhere. So if you've got Microsoft Word, AI is always there willing to help you do something. You can also join a writing critique group that will give you feedback on your story content. I belong to several of them, and I present maybe 3 or 4 pages for people to read and then give me their feedback. And it's just a great way to get an idea of whether what you're saying makes sense. And they can also correct your spelling. Or you can take writing classes, of course. You can join writing organizations and attend writing conferences to learn the best practices for writing a book. You can also hire a professional editor, and you should hire a professional editor when you're all finished with your manuscript. Some of those folks can do the formatting for you if you don't want to use a book template like I generally recommend. They can spell check it for you. They can publish your book for you. So, it just depends on your skill level and what you're comfortable with and how much money you have. Ha! Because that's going to cost a little money to have people help you. But there are ways of making this work, and you can do it. You can get help. It isn't a hopeless thing. And once you get that first draft manuscript in your hands, you're going to say, oh my gosh, I'm writing a book, and you are going to continue, and you're going to want to finish, I guarantee. The last steps to writing your written legacy. Yay! I know I'm putting the cart before the horse since this is a basic course, but I wanted to give you an idea of the steps needed to get to the book finish line if you're planning to write a paperback or an ebook. First, you must write a draft manuscript, which includes your narrative, photos, records, charts, and data sources. You must create a cover, and you can use the free kdp.com or lulu.com's cover creator. You can use an app called Canva, or you can hire someone to make you a cover for a few $100s. You should get beta readers to give you feedback about the content. A beta reader is basically just someone, hey, could you please read this manuscript and give me some feedback? It's generally best to do someone who's not your family members, because they're going to say, oh, it's great, it's fantastic, I love it, just leave it as it is. it's kind of better to, so if you've joined a critique group, which is the best, then just ask them to please give you some feedback about the content of your manuscript. You should retain a professional editor to check the content, the grammar, the spelling, and proofread the final manuscript version. Then you're ready to go. Last, print it, publish it, whichever you prefer to do, and then rejoice because you've hit the finish line. Hello, hello, hello. You've written your family story and you've left a written legacy. Congratulations and thank you so much. I'm going to take a few minutes right now to just go over a couple of my books and the sources that were really helpful for me. They might help you too. In 2016, I asked Mom's favorite first cousin, Levada Williams, our official family historian, who the Otho Williams was in the 1880 census, listed in Washington County, Maryland. She didn't know, so Otho became my first genealogy project in 2016. 3 months of 10-hour days before I found probate records and slave inventories, which listed Otho, his siblings, and his parents. That was a chocolate candy night, let me tell you, when I found that. Land deeds and this book called Manumissions in Washington County, Maryland, they were a lifesaver. I found the enslavers, Otho's parents, where his family ended up in Pennsylvania and Ohio, and there's an enthralling association with the Catoctin furnace, which is big news today. That's all in one of the chapters in this book. So that's what was very helpful for finding Otho. Let's look at the next book. The Ancestors Are Smiling. So I was so successful at finding proof of my great-great-grandfather Otho Williams' life that the book blossomed to 600 pages. And my friend, she said, "That's too big. You can't even hold a 600-page book." So I split off my research goals about his descendants into a separate book. So that's what The Ancestors Are Smiling. They are the descendants of the formerly enslaved Otho Williams. Each chapter is about a different remarkable ancestor, like a 107-year-old great-aunt Reba, fantastic story in that, a medical miracle, which was her brother Charles, a machinist who was my great-grandfather Otho Sherman Williams, a businesswoman who was my great-great-great-grandmother, and my great-great-grandmother, they're the Bookers. And then a principal. My mother was a principal of an elementary school in Sacramento, California. This is the easiest type of book to write. 1 chapter per family member. So keep this in mind. This is really excellent. So if you have a lot of photos and you have a lot of family stories, family lore, this is the perfect type of book to write for that type. Okay, Finding Daisy from the Deep South to the Promised Land. I call this the Deep South Dooleys. Grandma Daisy Dooley Marshall, my paternal grandmother, said she was born in St. Louis, Missouri. 20 years of searching St. Louis, Missouri brought me to the truth that she lied. She was actually born in the Deep South. So I had to find out why. Now, this was the amazing thing. I never cared about the social pages in Jet magazine, but when I found 70 articles about Grandma Daisy in the Cleveland Call-and-Post, I thanked my lucky stars. I could write her story with authenticity because I knew what she was wearing, why she was fundraising or at a given event, who she was with, for 40 years of wonderfulness. And again, there's about a dozen pictures of her also from the newspapers. So newspapers was fantastic. Census was also very, very important because that's where I was able to finally prove where she was actually born and where she lived for most of her life. And so really, really excellent sources there. The Mystery of Margaret Booker, One Woman's Triumph Over Slavery. Pen pal Granduncle George Booker thought our Booker enslavers were named Earl, E-A-R-L-E. That resulted in a fascinating book about my 3 times great-grandmother, Margaret Booker, 30 years enslaved in Beverly, Randolph County, West Virginia. Well, what intrigued me so much about her was the story of how she left Beverly with her 5 children during the middle of Civil War fighting. How did she do that? I had to find out why. This is a magnificent story, if I may say so myself. I traveled there and I breathed and I lived it. And oh my gosh, on Juneteenth in 2022, my family got together. So including our official family historian, Levada Williams, Myself and three of my cousins went to Beverly, Randolph County, West Virginia, where they were celebrating the opening of a new exhibit about the African American presence who lived in Beverly in the 1800s. And we were there. I got to cut the ribbon, got to give a TV interview about the research and working with the Beverly Heritage Center on making this happen. So your stories, your family's stories need to be told, and you can tell them. You should tell them at all costs. It's interesting to everybody. I don't care. I know there's those folks out there right now that are making a ruckus, but we can do this ourselves. We must do this ourselves. Okay, and then the last one, I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, forbidden chats on a genealogy trip. So on the back of this book, it says, during her genealogical research, Kathy Lynne Marshall discovered family members who descended from the white man who once owned her ancestors. Kathy and her white cousin Amy set out on an exciting madcap adventure along the back roads of Georgia, finding secrets that did not want to be told. They searched former plantations and courthouses and met with other black and white kin along the way. Now, what's not on the back is that we had a lot of really juicy conversations about things that black and white folks aren't supposed to be talking about, but we did because we shared a hotel room, we were in the car, we were together all day for I think it was 5 days. I didn't know this woman. She was from Utah. She's a Latter-day Saint. I'm from California. I'm not a Latter-day Saint. We had a blast, a wonderful, wonderful time. So these stories are important, and you need to share them now. Okay, it's time to have some fun now, okay? So get your pen or a pencil and some paper, or you could use a notes app on your smartphone or your computer. This is going to take about 10 minutes. It's a hands-on exercise, and it's going to help you get started. This is how I start every book project, and I want to share it with you. It's really simple, and it will help you focus your work, your efforts, and that means you're going to be successful. It's going to be easier for you to be successful if you're focused. Again, it'll take about 10 minutes, and then we'll have a question and answer session. Are you ready? Everyone have your pencil and paper? All righty, hold tight. Here we go. You want me to do what? Well, factually, I don't believe it's possible to write one book about all of your family members unless you're writing a Genesis version of your family history, meaning who begat who. I suggest that you start your first genealogy project by focusing on one person, writing about the nifty and not so terrific things you found out about them. Write a first edition book now, which concentrates on what you have already uncovered about your ancestors instead of dwelling on what you haven't found. You can always update the book in a few years when more information is available, but start writing your book now. I suggest setting your sights on 3 or 4 goals today, like finding the parents, the enslavers, the descendants of one family member. Maybe give yourself an end date. I write about whatever data I've collected within 9 months. I write as I do the research. Then I secure an editor to correct the mistakes, make a cover, and upload it to a book printer like Amazon's Kindle, so that I can publish within the year I started the book. When more information is available, I can update the book in a few years. So, are you ready to do a 5-minute, 5-question, well, maybe it'll be 10 minutes, 5-question focus exercise to get you started on your book? Get a pencil and pen and paper and play the game with me. This step is critical to make my process work, so why not just give it a try? First, I'd like you to relax by finding a comfortable seating position. Whether it's a chair, a nice cushy chair, or your sofa with a pillow behind your back, or maybe you like sitting on the floor, cross-legged, right? Just be very comfortable. I just want you to be comfortable for this next 5 minutes. I'd like you to close your eyes if you're comfortable and put one hand on your belly, down low. I want you to concentrate on your breathing. We're going to slow down life's busyness for just a few minutes. Allow the cool, fresh, life-giving air to enter your nostrils and let the invigorating oxygen fill up the lowest part of your belly like a balloon. Pretend your hand is on the bottom of the balloon and you are bringing new air through your nose, opening up that balloon and then pulling the air up into your lungs. So your lungs are full of air, your belly's full of air. And then slowly blow out the air through your open mouth, emptying the stale air from your lungs, then all the way down your belly. So deflate that balloon completely. Breathe in again. Clean, positive air is coming in through your nostrils. It's filling your belly and then up to your lungs, and you're feeling great. And then you're going to blow out the stale old air out of your mouth. Breathe in positive thoughts that you will find your ancestral information. Then blow out any negative thoughts. Keep breathing in and out as I give you a magic wand from the ancestors. This gift will take care of all of your responsibilities for 24 hours. Your spouse, your kids, your job, your parents. Keep breathing. The magic wand will grant you a 24-hour vacation anywhere in the world during any time period in history. The wand invites you to select one of your ancestors that you want to visit with, that you desperately want to talk to. This would be someone that you've heard an interesting story about or found maybe one tiny kernel of information about. Who would that person be? Who would you love to spend 24 hours with so you could ask them questions about their life, their loves, their hopes, their dreams, their terrors? Again, you would ideally know their name and at least a couple of snippets about them, a couple of pieces of information about them. Who would that person be? Okay, now open your eyes. How do you feel? Who would you like to visit and interview with the ultimate goal of writing a book about them? Write WHO on your paper, then the person's name that you would love to chat with. So who, ? And then their actual name. Again, it's important that you have at least a couple of bits of information about them. And if you can't think of anyone like that, write your own name after who. Who ? You can write your own name if you can't think of anyone else right now. That's the first step. Pretty easy, huh? But it's very helpful that you make sure that you have at least a couple of documents or a couple of stories, something about this who person. It's really, really important. Otherwise, write your own name. Okay, let's proceed on to the next step. Write WHY on your paper. Why? Why did you put that who name? Why did you select that person? My who person was my grandpa, Austin Marshall. Why? Because nobody knew much about him, and I couldn't write a Marshall heritage book without knowing about Grandpa first. So take a few moments and write, why did you choose your who person? And if you are your own who person, why do you want people to know about you? Take a few minutes to write this out. Well, that's only about 1 minute, but hopefully you're done. You can always come back later if you need more time. Let's move on to the next question. Question number 3. What 3 or more things do you already know about your who person? Do you have family stories, rumors, biographies, photographs, census records, marriage certificates, death records, city directories, land records, tax records, church records, memorabilia, etc.? Do you have at least 3 things? How many things do you already know about that person? We'll start with 3, but if you have more, feel free to write them. Again, I'll give you a minute or so. My grandpa, Austin Marshall, was born in Columbus, Georgia in 1892. He was a Pullman porter who put my dad through medical school. Grandpa opened the Marshall Funeral Home near Cedar Avenue around 1940. So those are some of the things that I know about Grandpa. Hopefully you were able to write several things about your person, and you can always add more later. But let's move on to number 4. Where, W-H-E-R-E, did your who person live? You can write the specific city, specific states. This is the setting. We want to figure out where they were living, where your person was living. And if you don't know, just put a question mark. But if you have a census record, that tells you where they were living. And many other records are going to tell you where they were living. So just, maybe you can't think of it right now, but if you've collected any records, just look at that later. But where? Name as many places as you'd like to name. If you are your who person, where did you live? Where were you born? Where are you living now? Where did you grow up? My grandpa, Austin Marshall, was born in Columbus, Georgia, lived most of his life in Cleveland, Ohio, then died in his original hometown. In his book, The Marshall Legacy in Black and White, I wrote about a trip he likely took with his wife, my grandma Daisy Dooley Marshall, in 1928, when his mother, Mary Smith Marshall, died. I described the tour Grandpa likely gave his wife. And here's just a little snippet to give you some ideas of how you can write this information for the where question. Toot, toot, sounded the air horn as the Central of Georgia train pulled out of Union Station. That train hub at 6th Avenue at 13th Street was only a few blocks from my old family home. I'm pretending that my grandpa is speaking this and saying this to his wife as he's touring her around in 1928 after the mother's funeral. So, I was showing Daisy the town where I was born and raised until 1917, when I registered for the war effort. Ding, 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 clanged an orange and yellow Columbus Railway streetcar as it approached our stop. Streetcars like this have moved Georgians from home to work to play since the end of slavery. We got on board, paid the fee, found a seat, and looked out the window as the vehicle started moving. I began my tour guide duties. Darling, I began, the center of Columbus at Broad and 10th Street is only about a mile away from everything we needed growing up. Most businesses are located off Broad Street, so that's where we're headed this morning. Sitting on the cranberry-colored leather seats, we cooled ourselves with paper fans from our recent visit to St. James AME Church. Now that's an example of how you can describe a place. I found this information from history pamphlets prepared by the Columbus Tourism Board. I merely turned their data into dialogue to make my ancestors come alive. Everyone can do that. Okay, let's move on to the last point here. Alrighty. What 3 questions would you like to ask during the 24-hour visit with your Who focus person? Okay, so, and you can have more questions, but these are going to become your goals, the goals for your book project. So examples are, who were your parents? Why did you put me up for adoption? Who was the family's slave owner? Can DNA find more relatives who might already have collected family documents that we can share? And then during the question and answer session, I'd love to hear what questions you'd like to ask your Who. You can put them in the chat if you like after you're done writing them on your paper. Again, let me give you a minute or so to write 3 or more questions that you would like to ask your Who person during your 24-hour vacation with them. Okay, yay! You've finished the most important part of my process. This helps me focus on one person, their parents, siblings, and descendants. I'll thoroughly investigate the places where they lived, their friends, associates, and neighbors, the fan club, as coined by Elizabeth Shown Mills. We can study the entire community. This gives the reader a broader sense of what life was like for our ancestors. Okay, let's move on. So what? So what, Kathy? It's a wonderful expression coined by genealogist Dr. Shelley Murphy. It means we should analyze every bit of information we find and determine how it fits into our research. In this case, what does this focus exercise have to do with anything? Honestly, it's the most crucial part of my quick start book writing process. It can help you focus on who your main character is, what you already know about that person, and what more you want to learn so that you can write a book about him or her. Answers to the 5 questions can help structure your book. Your Who could become the book title, and you could talk about your Who in the introduction, and you can discuss the Who in your chapter 1. Okay, this is just sort of getting the reader ready to hear about this person that you've chosen to write about. The why, W-H-Y, can be explored in the introduction and chapter 1 also. You're going to let the reader know what this book is about. Okay? The already know items can be the key for you to start your book. So yes, writing your book, I start by writing what I already know, what I've already collected. A bunch of experts told me that a decade ago, but I didn't know what it meant until I was ready to understand what it meant. Gather all the documents you've already gathered about your Who and the Who's family that you already know. Chapter 2 could be all about what you already know. So everything you've gathered, the family lore, the photos, any documents, you could put all of those in chapter 2 and talk about what you already know. And and then this is going to get you started today, right? You don't have to, oh, I can't write a book because I haven't found all the answers yet. I'm suggesting that you start right now with what you do know. The glass is half full, right? You have some information. Write about that. And it's going to help prompt you to come up with more questions that will be focused questions so you're not wasting your time. Okay, you're going to be laser focused. The where is your setting. You could talk about the main location where your family lived in chapter 3. You can talk about the history of that place, all in chapter 3. You can do look at the census records and do an assessment of the whole neighborhood. For example, what percent of all the people living in that area were black, mulatto, white? What types of occupations existed for the various groups? The 1870 census is really excellent. If you can go back that far in your family line that you're studying, that's really fantastic, because it's going to give you an idea of how wealthy people, where the wealthy people were. And if your family was living close to them, they may have been enslaved by those people just 5 years prior during slavery. How did your family compare to the other families in that community? What are the names in the households of the neighborhoods? Because those folks, those other names, they might have married into your family. So what can you find out about those other family members, those other people, those other neighbors? Can you expand your family tree based on what you do with this, what they call a community analysis? In the 1870 census, it's possible that the former enslavers were living nearby. So this chapter encourages you to visit the place where your family lived and search the history of your place. And of course, you can look online and get a really good idea. But it's better if you can actually go there. Each what goal could become the title for subsequent chapters. So for example, if I want to know about the parents, I might say that chapter 5 is about the mother. Chapter 6 is the father. Chapter 7, you get my gist? Now this is really important, and I think it's unfortunately a little too late for you guys now, but I'm going to be teaching 2 classes at the Midwest African American Genealogical Institute, MAGGIE, July 8th and 9th of this year, on exactly how to build this focus exercise into a book manuscript, right? And then another class I'll be teaching is how to self-publish your book. So that's something to think about. Maybe you can get in still, I don't know. Maggie Institute is, I think it's maggieinstitute.org. Anyway, let's move on. Let's summarize our time together. I hope you feel better prepared to get started or further along on your quest to leave a written legacy of family history. I normally start the focus exercise first, then build a family tree using documents that prove my lineage. I organize those documents by family line and person within the family in binders and on my computer. I use a spreadsheet to create a timeline of events. Now, this is really important. DNA test yourself, your siblings, especially your elders, and cousins in the family line you are researching. Interview and videotape your family, finding documents that prove or disprove the family stories, because the stories aren't always true. Believe that you can. Actively research your focus person. Write the book as you research, and you will be able to publish your ancestors' stories in whichever ways you wish to. Paperback, blog, however you want to publish your stories is fine. I can already see the smile on your face when you hold your finished book. Let the world know who we are. Yes! My books are available for purchase on Amazon or the Afro-American Literature Book Club, aalbc.com. My books may help you to write your story. Check them out. Maybe they will. Hopefully they will. Also, if you haven't looked at aalbc.com yet, please do. It's Black folks supporting one another. You may contact me at www.kathylynnemarshall.com or check out my Facebook pages named Finding Otho and The Ancestors Are Smiling. My Instagram account is Kanika Marshall Art Books. Last, I have hundreds of public writing, art, and travel related videos on YouTube that may interest you. All right, take care. Now let's go for the Q&A.